right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the 2024 International Mandela Effect Conference. This is our last event of the day here at this hotel anyway. We have our panel here from the day. We've got Bill McKenna and Liz Larson from this morning. We have Lee Baguez from this morning. We have Pippa Ona. And we have Christopher Onitra, both from this evening session. So if you guys have questions, of course the panel don't work without questions. Please do come on up. The microphone is open. Line up right here. Make sure you have your tickets, and we'll get this thing started. Let's start with the one that I've been asked 100 times this weekend. We'll start down here at this end. What's causing the Mandela effect? Start with a hard one.
Everything?
Everything.
Actually, I do have a theory. Theories are my favorite thing.
Me too.
So I think why it's speeding up, I don't know if it always existed, but I think why it's speeding up is a combination of things. I think it's part of where our solar system is in the galaxy right now. I think it has to do with a lot of the big solar energy that's happening. I think it's like everything is super powered, super electric. And so things are moving really, really fast. And I think also because of that, those of us who are really actively, and there's so many right now looking to raise our consciousness, I think we're adding to that energy, speeding everything up. So I think it's a combination of things that are all piling on top of each other to create bigger, more, faster energy. That's my idea.
I like it. Next. What do you think, Bill? What could be causing the Mandela effect? The big question of the day.
Okay. So we would probably go on for an hour on this one.
Oh, easily.
But easily an hour on this one. But I believe that this was predicted long ago. You know, that whole Hopi prophecy, of the division of worlds, that through our thoughts and feelings will be moving in between dimensions. So in the work that Liz and myself do, we talk about the third, fourth, and fifth dimensions. And decades ago, I heard about this and got educated on it. And I was like, the third dimension, all your lower frequency feelings, shame, guilt, grief, humiliation, anger, so on and so forth. And with that, we would have what they call linear time. It was the home of conditional love. And in this dimension, everything is looked at through that lens. So there is division on every possible way. There's yours and mine, there's property lines, there's, all things like that. And everything's looked at through the lens of judgment. And when we transition to the fourth dimension, this fourth dimension has different properties as well. In this dimension, there's an emergence of choice. There's an emergence of trust. There's an emergence of a good feeling about yourself. I feel good about me. I like me. And in this dimension, what happens is there's a falling away of those negative feelings. Time itself becomes malleable. And the letting go happens a little bit at a time. But as this happens, all of a sudden, there is an occurrence of synchronicities, coincidences, manifestations start speeding up. You think of things and they happen faster. What of those might be? And the emergence, bit by bit, your love becomes less and less conditional. So as the prediction that was made is that we will be shifting between going from the third dimension to the fifth dimension. Now in the fifth dimension, time ceases to exist. Most of us will experience this after we actually pass or we have a near-death experience. In the fifth dimension, what happens is our state goes into a realization of oneness, and we are love. We experience love. There is no difference in between you and me, and I have completely loved and accepted you and everything else. The experience is of oneness and bliss. When I think about things or I feel things, then what happens is it becomes instantaneous. I think it's now. This sounds really great, except for the fact, if you're like me, or Liz, I'm going to blame you too. You. But like, for example, you're in this oneness state and you're like, oh, I'm in bliss, and I do see myself as you, and I have appreciation and love and these sorts of things. Well, if something triggers you, for example, you get mad at your wife or husband or something like that, and you're like, oh, they're doing that thing, and and walk by the TV set, and the TV set's like, pop. It's like $800. Damn it. Things break, because in the fifth dimension, one of the requirements is that in order to stay there, is that you master all of your emotions. So if we're not mastering our emotions, we'll end up creating chaos. Reality becomes malleable, and everything starts responding to the way you feel. When we are in the third dimension, things take a long time to manifest. It's like, oh, I want that new car. Oh, I got to work real hard, and and I got to get a loan and what have you. And so the linear time from thought to thing takes a long time. Fourth dimension speeds up a lot, and fifth dimension now. Point is that as a species, what has been foretold long ago was that we are on a journey from the third dimension to the fifth. We're heading through the fourth. That means that as all of you are here changing, how you feel, processing whatever, all of a sudden you'll notice all these changes in the environment, kind of like everybody's been talking about. And the value of noticing those changes and being able to capture those moments and get into your golden, your golden you, timeline-wise. So this process is not something that you have to really work that hard on, because it's a natural process that's happening. You mostly have to start letting go. And the more you can let go, guilt, grief, anger, shame, humiliation, whatever, you're in the current. This is happening so easy for you now. In the past, someone would have to sit in a cave forever.
So short answer would be movement from third to fifth dimension then?
You guys gave me the mic. It's your fault. Right? You might want to reconsider, okay?
I love everything you got to say, bud.
I did too. And I got to, from my experience, from what I believe that the Mandela effect is too, through my psychedelic shamanries and learning, through psychedelics, the Mandela effect is the same way. Like you said, the consciousness is us rising up. We are the quantum computer. We're playing with it. We have every answer, every question, whatever they want to say, turn around how you feel in the ether. It's there. That's why these changes are happening, because we are moving up in vibration. We have to rise. We can't stay stable in the way we are now if we want to evolve. And I think the Mandela effect helps us understand that a little bit. And I think that does come from, and I do believe that it is the collective consciousness. messing with the game, messing with the matrix. Because I think either all, the more we raise our consciousness, like we've been doing all day today, all of us that studied it, everybody has woke up from it, has put a glitch, their chip, their, I'm going to use Shane's thing, their little digital dot in front of their screen to make it bigger. And we're just breaking the matrix, and that's what's in front of it. And the Mandela effect is that one positivity, 100% proof in the barrel of that gun that is loaded, that this world is a simulation. This world is what we make it and what we have to make it. And that's why it's falling apart.
So you think it's the smoking gun evidence of simulation theory then?
All day long.
You're not the only one. There's a lot of people that believe that. That's definitely a very popular theory.
It's easy reality, time shifts, timelines. We've all lost keys and refound keys. We've all had experiences of, losing something and coming back. And, well, isn't that glitches? Now we just have the terminology, not what we had in the past. We didn't know what to call it in the past. Now we have a name for it. The matrix, a glitch, the simulation, the computer system, the grid, whatever you want to call it,
right.
The veil.
We have reality shift.
Correct.
All right. And Pippa, Ona, what is your theories on this, man?
Well, I hear.
Talk into the mic, please.
Sorry. Is that better? Okay.
There we go.
Okay. So I can say anything if I have this accent and it's cool, right? Just because I accent. No, I agree with what everyone's saying. I have a slightly different view on it, which is that the reason that there's more Mandela effects is because you have decided with your will and intention to awaken. You personally, I'm speaking to each one of you individually, you personally have decided to awaken. Therefore, you've moved to an awakening timeline where everyone around you seems to be awakening. That's because you decided to awaken. You're a divine being. You've been dreaming a dream. Now you've decided to become more lucid, and this is the process, and the world is reflecting that back to you. So all around you, people are talking about this stuff is going on. And those Mandela effects are your presence to the simulation, as you like to, you're bringing more and more presence to things, and therefore you're noticing what's going on. But this is personal to you. This whole experience is your dream. You're the dreamer here. Okay, you're dreaming this dream. This is your dream. Okay.
Thank you, Pippa. Chris, I know you're going to have an interesting explanation. That was a great talk, by the way. What is causing the Mandela effect?
I can give you the short answer.
Is there a short answer?
I believe so. I believe that we're creating it. I believe that we knew before we got here a certain sequence of events that would happen. We knew certain things that would trigger us as far as what would jump out at us as a Mandela effect that would start to disrupt our reality, to start us to asking these questions. So you take that, you take the concept of soft disclosure. I talk about that a lot in my videos. There's a lot of soft disclosure, especially like in science fiction type movies. I even believe that the Matrix itself is responsible and that the Matrix is trying to wake us up, because as one game is ending, another game is about to begin. But basically, to summarize that, we're doing it.
We're doing it. All right, Chris, I appreciate that. So real quick, easy answer here, starting with Miss Liz, of course. What was the Mandela effect? I think you actually may have covered this in your talk, though some of you did not. What was the Mandela effect that made you go, wait, this ain't right, something's going on here?
Well, like I shared, it was the cornucopia, but I'll share a different one I was sharing with Cynthia. Went into a jewelry shop. It was around Christmas time, probably 4 years ago. And the guy in the jewelry shop was just bored out of his gourd. And I like to ask a lot of questions. So they had these opals that were, they're called lab grown. So I wanted to know what was the difference. And I'm like, hey, what's the difference between this and, regular opals? And he said it was, I said, are they synthetic? And he said, no, they're grown. I'm like, what do you mean they're grown? He said, yeah, we can grow opals. We can grow stones. They're alive, right? And I thought, is this guy messing with me? And I'm sure he thought, the look on my face. So he takes me around and shows me the real opals. That's where this ring came from. It's a whole story in itself. But then he starts to tell me about how Samuel's jewelers got in all kinds of trouble because they were using lab-grown diamonds, but not saying they were lab-grown diamonds. And I'm like, lab-grown, excuse me, what? And yeah, they're alive. They can be grown. And I said, so they're synthetic. No, they're real diamonds. And the only way you can tell the difference is the serial number. And he kept saying, they're alive. They can be grown. And I'm thinking to myself, since when?
Right.
What about 60 million years of pressure and coal? And so for me, that blew my mind. And I thought, okay, have I just entered a different timeline? Did everyone know this and I didn't? So that one really was a big one. But, back to what you were just asking about, what's the Mandela effect?
Yes.
I think that's a big part of it. It's like signposts for each of us. Here's a reminder. This is a simulation. You can do whatever you want, and you can change things. So I think there's signposts too.
That's a good answer. I actually have said that about synchronicities quite a bit. Synchronicities are signposts from the universe. If you know how to read them, you'll be okay. Most of us don't know how to do that. Bill, what was the Mandela effect that grabbed you and said, oh no, there's something going on here?
Well, I'll tell a funny one, and then I'll tell the one that's real. The funny one was one of my favorite cereals, Captain Crunch.
Oh, of course.
Gary's Herpes. Cap'n Crunch. Captain Crunch. It's CAPN. Cap'n. It hurts me. It's upsetting. So, okay. Well, the real one is my neighborhood, and I kept calling Liz every couple days. And I'm the lifeguard towers. So where I live, there's a beach, and you've got lifeguard towers. So the lifeguard towers were always yellow. And then they turned, and this is over the course of days, right? And they faded. They're in the sun. It's on the beach. They're faded. So the lifeguards one day, for my whole life, they were yellow. And then they turned white. All white. Hey, Liz, the lifeguard towers are white. And the first thing you always do is you go by and you look at the paint, like, what's up? Is this like maybe they went on a painting spree or something like that? No. And then a few days later, it's white and yellow with the number of the lifeguard tower, like Tower 18, Tower 19, Tower 20. It's a little sign on the side with yellow and black, little square giving the number of it. And then a few days later, now the sign is huge. It's yellow and black, but the number sign takes up the entire side of the lifeguard tower. And the stairs on some of them are going the wrong way. Like, okay, you're a lifeguard. You save lives of people that are drowning. So if you're watching somebody, hey, there's somebody drowning, I think I'll go out the back door. And I'm going to run down the back door, and then I'll go over to the sand because I'm going to take my eyes off the target. I mean, come on now. Really? Really? So anyway, that's my latest. But it was, my conversation with Liz, Cynthia was just like, man, things are malleable right now. For it to be in that just a fluid state where it's so unstable.
Right. So I'm going to revisit that in another question here momentarily. I really like that you brought that up. Lee, what was the Mandela effect that grabbed you by the horns and made you say, "Oh God, there's something here"?
Well, I got another one, but like I said before in my speech, it was Luke, I am your father. You know, seen it so many times. I'm a Star Wars fanatic. I'm surprised I actually didn't wear my Star Wars socks. I'm kind of upset now. Well, I got my Pac-Mans, but no ghosts. But that's even another one too. Ghostbusters. I think about Star Wars was it. I was a Star Wars geek. I'm a geek. I'm a military brat. I rented movies my whole life. You lived on a base. You had two things to do: bowl, swim, watch a movie.
That was 3.
Well, hey, I went to public school too. So
That's fair.
in America. But no, that was it. And then I was also a Simpsons fan. And living overseas, time was different. I couldn't watch The Simpsons because it was bedtime. So I'll always record The Simpsons in a living color. We talked about Jim Carrey. Somebody said about Sandera the other day, but that was it. But I remember that scene where she's learning the saxophone and you had Bleeding Joe's gum dies. And then it was James Earl Jones, which recently passed away once again. If you haven't, if it hasn't, yes. Yes. He recently just passed away. Gosh, a month and a half ago?
About that, yeah.
Yeah. Again.
Can't forget the again.
Because as you know, on The Simpsons, he was a voice for a lot of people on there. And so he's up there, I'm watching over you, Lisa. And then he goes into basically a monologue of what it is. And he goes into Darth Vader. No, Luke, I am your father. And Sinbad's dad comes, he's Mufasa. So it's like, that's not the line. And it always clicked. That was one of those things that clicked. And when I saw it, that was way before I saw the Mandela Effect. But that's what I remember, too. That good old Simpsons shows, The Simpsons always show the proof. But the other one, and I mentioned it, too.
He also said it on 2.5 Men, by the way.
Oh, yeah, well,
That was another one. But go ahead.
It's true. Yeah, it is. He did say that. They've said it on a lot, just like him even having the script when they ask him, man, Luke, I am your father. How am I going to pull this off?
Right.
Yeah.
How are they going to play out this line?
Going to play this line. How is this going to happen? And that's like the biblical one. If you haven't seen it, that interview is like, he is so, you can see it. He's telling the smack truth. That is what that line is. And that was even way before the Mandela Effect even came around too on it.
Right.
But also Shazam. Like I said, I am a military brat. I watched movies. I still watch movies to the days. I teach through psychedelics, through the movies, because you can lose an ego. Because I just think that's where characters, we all play a character. We all have played a character. I'm playing a great character right now. Yes, Lee. But my mask is off. I can say that. But Shazam, that was a movie we all had in our hands. That's all we can remember is that movie, how cheesy it was. That's the thing, cheesy. I mean, yes, Shaq's Kazam was cheesy as well. But, we're not going to confuse the size difference nor the color difference, too, as well. I think that's something like, oh, it's false memories. It's Shaq. No, it wasn't.
I think a lot of us remembered Sinbad as a genie after that. Like, you think of Sinbad and his genie, like that's the correlation we all made immediately after that movie. At least that's for me. I don't know about everybody.
And a little proof of evidence, if you go back to the show A Different World, Cosby Show, Different World, he is actually leaving the show to make the movie. And they even say that, oh, we'll see you later. We know you're going to go play a genie in the show.
Whoa.
He was gone the next day.
Hey, researchers, can you all find that clip, please? Thank you.
I have it in one of my videos. It's just like I'm saying, but it's like you see it, and it's just like, I don't know if it was Denise or I don't remember her other name. I think it's funny, but she was like, yeah, I was like, I hope we see you next, next semester, but we're no, you're going to be gone
for a while. He played like a teacher or something in there, right?
He played as a teacher, and he's like, yeah, we're not going to be gone for a while. We'll see you next, we know you're going to be playing a genie. And it was just like, how did they know? But they got to tell you the truth in front of your face. That's how this world works. They got to tell you the truth.
I mean,
they have to tell you, regardless if you take it or not.
So the Luke, I Am Your Father and the Sinbad movie, yes. All right. And what about you, Miss Pippa? What grabs you by the horns and made you say, "Oh God, something's wrong here"?
Well, as I shared in my talk, I'm an early experiencer of Mandela effects. I've been having these all my life, So what's really changed, I suppose, is not thinking I'm weird and realizing the reality is weird, not me, As an adult, there's been a number of things which have happened, which have blown my mind. I think one of the ones which blew my mind was my mother-in-law's eye color. And this was, I bring this up because it was a shared one between my husband and I. Both of us, we were sitting at the kitchen and both of us looking at her eyes and suddenly realized she had green-brown eyes. And yet we both remembered her having blue eyes. Now, this is a son. You know your mother's eye color. He's close to his mother. He knew his mother's eyes were blue. I knew her eyes were blue. However, we said, your eyes don't look blue. They look, no, they're green-brown. They've always been green-brown. And all of the photos showed that her eyes have been green-brown. And it was mind-blowing because I suppose it wasn't just me all by myself experiencing it for a change. It was a shared one. And it blew my mind.
You okay? Need some water? And what about you, Mr. Anatra? What grabbed you by the bill and made you say, this is definitely something going on?
First, I want to say something about eye color, because eye color is like a big clue for things. And I remember with Gilligan's Island, I remember Gilligan always had brown eyes, and then they turned to green eyes. And then when you track that back, that goes into a DNA lineage. Something changed in his DNA lineage that I think got tracked back to Egypt. But one little thing that happens can change your eye color. So you're now in another timeline, so to speak. For myself, it was the JFK assassination, which continues to amaze me to this day. And if any of you guys have seen the latest video we did at IMEC for the JFK and the Stemmons witches, there's continual things that just... every time I watch it, I spot new things, and I'm trying to always be extremely observant. Was this the way it was before? Did I ever hear of this? Did I ever see this photo before? Because I've tried to find all the photos, all the different types of video footage that was made. And when things like the Orville Nix video footage came in, as a supplement to the Zapruder film, I'm like, who the heck is Orville Nix? And who is Marie Muchmore? And who is Marie Mormon, who took the Polaroid the exact moment he was shot? And there's just so many things, and it continues to keep adding to this day.
Tommy. Perfect timing. I did perfect snapshot that night.
Oh, it was a perfect timing, yeah. And I had never heard of that before.
The JFK things, it's just a real kind of like a place where...
Right, in the microphone.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was that's another example of a hairball of timelines. So the JFK assassination, for sure.
That's been a big one. We've watched things change in that. I know you and I have covered it quite a while on IMEC, and just from what you've been able to find, we've seen changes along the way. And that brings up my next question. Hello, I did not see this. We had one sneak in here. And do make sure you speak into the mic.
Yes, I'm supposed to ask about Polaroids because in my timeline, Polaroids didn't show up to be available till much after the assassination of JFK. Like early 70s, late 60s, early 70s, Polaroids. I mean, I was a kid when Polaroids came out and we were like, that's cool. And we waited to... That wasn't around. Not in my world. Yeah.
And I could, if you don't mind, I could link in that too to the JFK assassination, because my earliest memory was that it was a black and white film and there was no sound. And there were only 4 people in the car, or 3 people in the car for me to start. And then it changed to 4, then the 6, and the color, and then sound. And you could hear the gunshots, like more and more detail, more and more data coming in.
Yeah.
So
it's a big one in there. Yeah.
I just want to say that the JFK assassination is what I would call a nodal point. It's a metaphor for a location in the astral where a lot of different timelines intersect.
Yeah.
So that's my understanding of.
I think it's not done too. I don't know about you guys. I think there's continual things happening like that.
Continuing to mutate around that one nodal point. It's an interesting thing, and there's a lot of talk about JFK assassination at the moment, disclosure and all of that. So it's more timeline movement, indeed. I agree.
That's kind of funny that you said that. That's kind of a pivotal point because JFK is probably one of the big pinnacle ones that go back so far in history for generations. That is something that if you're around to see it, fortunately, I probably was in a past life. I wasn't born then yet. So, I do remember it. And like you said, there was no sound, black and white, no sound. And then all of a sudden, you get a little bit of color and, you get the gunshot. But like you said, the spot in time where it's a safe spot. It's a saving point for a game. You load, you save your game. I want to say that I said it because it's awesome because I think the Simpsons are the same way too. If we want to talking about telling it, showing the truth in front of you, predicting the future or predictive programming of consciousness, knowing now we got to kind of make them wrong now. But that's another subject, especially after recent events of this month already. But it is. I also think that The Simpsons, because they did have it right too as well. They had so many other Mandela effects that has evidence of them, the original way we remember it. And I also believe that is also one of those save points for the universe. This is the point. We have your arrow up. You can come right here. Kind of that, we used to make those lines, the Aztec lines back in the day to show the ships where to land, where you can go. Good people here. There's good food here. Don't go over here, I think they do the same way, too, with these points. And it may be possible that the Mandela effect coincides with that, because we're all one. Like you said, everything is one. Pippa said it. And that's exactly what it could be. I believe that.
Anyone else?
So I have a comment and a conspiracy theory. So I heard an idea that I think is interesting, that there are all kinds of Mandela effects, like the diamonds I was just talking about, but that some of them are not actually, they're manufactured, that the powers that be, that they are utilizing things like Fruit Loops and Cap'n Crunch and stovetop stuffing. Yeah. That they're piggybacking on it so that there's the ability to change history. So it comes to mind to me that the JFK assassination, so interesting that there's so many changes so rapidly, like the 6 people in the car. I just heard that this year. And there's a refusal to release all the documents. So it makes you wonder if some of them are on purpose so that 150 years from now, they make all these subtle changes. And what happened 100 years ago didn't. What happened 50 years ago didn't. And our kids' will remember a completely different manufactured history.
Yeah, that's an aspect of that.
Bill?
Just kind of interesting dovetail is everybody here's already familiar with the photon double slit experiment, right?
What?
Where you collapse. When you fire the photon through the slits, it if observed, then what happens is it becomes the pattern where it collapses right into a particle. Unobserved, it's a wave. So to Liz's point, what if it becomes the unobserved? If you no longer are observing this thing, then it changes. So it's just the opposite of collapsing something is unobserving it. And unobserving it, in our experience, is the loss of an emotional charge. It no longer carries your interest.
That makes sense. And I've noticed that when I've observed news and whatnot. If I start looking for something, or even, I'm sure you must have had this experience, your friend buys a car, a yellow Pontiac, if you will. And all of a sudden, everywhere you look is yellow Pontiacs. Everywhere is yellow. Everybody and their brother suddenly has a yellow Pontiac. I think it's the same thing you're talking about here.
Yeah. timeline manipulation. That's what I call it. It's all part of the timeline wars. That's my understanding of it. And it's a continuing manipulation of our collective memory and our history. And it's one of the reasons that I emphasize owning our memory and imagination, taking control of it rather than letting it be rendered for us all the time.
Well, it kind of goes with, it kind of goes with technology, with everything changing, with AI itself evolving. Maybe that's the one changing it. Maybe it's become the server, too, as well. You can't put that in. Consciousness is consciousness, regardless of what you look at it. And if you can give a program to think, they gave us a program to think, they gave us a program to speak, throw out lessons, make tools, primitive tools, whatever you can think about it from the ages. We have these tools. So what makes you think that we're not trying to redo something that's already been done to us? We're making another better version, we want to say, because there's no better version than the version we are now, because that's the truth. We're here in this deed. We'll never come back to this after this, because it's okay. We won't. We've uplifted it, but AI has to evolve. It has to evolve itself. There's no stopping it. So that's exactly, maybe AI has a part of it too as well.
Maybe. I mean, you can't discount anything anymore. Did that answer your question? Did that answer the group question then?
Ask my question yet.
Okay, so if you have one, go ahead. Go ahead.
Unless you want to give me my coupon back.
It'll be a wild card. We'll use this as a wild card.
This is going to sound random, but it's kind of...
Do speak into the mic.
Kind of random, but I think it'll be interesting. When we're talking about the Mandela effect, a lot of what we're talking about is information fields, right? Magnetic, electric. As more and more things happen in my world, I've realized I've always been sensitive to electrical fields. I'm becoming more and more sensitive to electrical fields. My question to you is, do you have experiences all the way back to childhood? I know I have, where I have had electrical things happen that shouldn't have happened. I have this fascination with it, and also now a heightened sensitivity. I live out in the country. It's the only way I can exist. I've come into the city for this event. I'll be able to stay here for a few days, but I need to get back to in the middle of nowhere, because this is too much. All of this is too much, and it affects my fields. I wonder if you all have a similar experience.
Liz?
So the question is, have we had weird electrical experiences? Yeah, well, so for me, I've always been like that too. I'm not really that sensitive to like the EMFs and that. Is it EMFs?
Yes,
Doesn't really
electromagnetic
bother me.
frequency. Yes, ma'am.
But I will drain batteries. I interfere with every kind of electronics. I have been thrown out of my computer programmer's office, my accountant's office. Printers don't work if I'm near them. But this is very, very real. And I was sharing this with someone else. Had a laptop, and when I used it, the screen was static. So I would take it into the guy to fix it. And he said, excuse me, ma'am, there's nothing wrong with your computer. I'm like, but there's everything wrong with the computer. So about the third time, I fess up. And I say, look, I have problems with electronics. And he said, no, that's a real thing. And this is a straight man. There's no woo-woo involved with this guy. Excuse me. And he said, here's what you do. He said, you have to put crystals between you and the computer. And I'm like, is he punking me? Like, is he... He said, no, really. He said the crystals will absorb the frequency. You just happen to have a high frequency system and you're interacting with electronics. But along those lines, I live near Mount Shasta, not far, an hour and a half. And about a quarter mile out from Mount Shasta, if the energy is strong, I'll start to get like an aural migraine, a visual migraine. It looks like static in my head. And then as we leave, it goes. So electricity affects me and I affect it a lot. And I think those of us who are raising our consciousness, or those of us who maybe don't originate here, we tend to have this effect on everything. And I think everyone, and I know the work you do, we tend to be able to work in other people's fields. We tend to feel their fields, and how we feel changes them and everything around us. So that's my experience.
All right, Bill, what about you? Well, mine was as far as if you asked me decades ago if I had anything like that, I would have been
But we're asking now.
no. Now, I don't know, maybe, and this has been progressing, and it was kind of like maybe I was telling on myself about the $800 TV a while ago, but, a little autobiographical. Unfortunately, the affecting things electronically outside of myself is very much a thing. Um, just 2 weeks ago, everybody has that. What is that? Amazon Fire Stick? That thing. I had that remote control for the TV on my stomach, right about my belly button, and I'm kind of watching. I'm just like, oh, watching YouTube on the, and all of a sudden, boom! It's like, boom! My hand, like, the battery inside it exploded. As so I didn't know that could happen. It sounded about like a half of a firecracker going off. Boom! But it's a very real thing. It's something that is, it appears, relative to your consciousness, the voltage, as Liz Larson says, will increase. And as we talked about earlier in the first thing that we talked about, is that your voltage, that electro signal has an intelligence to it. There's information. Had a friend that had a electric stove, one of those stove tops that lights up, the little curly Q thing. And she's cleaning her stove, and this one here is I always compare her to that the grandma in the Matrix, the Oracle. That's her. You wouldn't even know it. I mean, the smoking, Oracle, like, yeah, that type of thing. And she was like cleaning the stove, and she was like, I don't like this stove. Had it since the 70s. I don't like this. Leaves the kitchen. All of a sudden, beep, 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 beep. The fire alarms are going off in the house, the smoke alarms. And she's like, what the hell? Goes in the kitchen, the thing's on fire. 911. Squad 51 for Walter. Fire trucks come out. They're like, unplug it, undo the circuit. At the breaker box, it's electric. It comes, they say, ma'am, you got to get an electrician in here. There's something wrong. And so, calls up the electrician. Electrician comes over. He walks in. He's looking at it. She walks in the kitchen, and the thing lights up. And he's under there looking unplugged. He's like, what the? Going over to the circuit breaker, but it's off. It's unplugged. What the hell? And she leaves, goes out to the living room. The thing goes off. He's like, hey, well, I don't understand. It's off now, so I think it's good. Oh, really? It's good? Walks back in. Sushi eaten up again. So anyway, I tell that because it, as your consciousness elevates, and this goes right back to the previous conversation of managing it has to do with your consciousness.
And I could actually extend on that, for me, electronics bug out all the time. I'll lose Wi-Fi, walk past it. I want to, if I get this, oh, I got to go look this up. Oh, I just, I had this epiphany. Oh, I can't get on the internet. But also, when I do my psychedelic experiencing, go through my studies and my teachings and my go deep, everything bugs out. And it just like you said, I got crystals. I got my little crystals, got my little salt rock. Mines are so strong now. It just still doesn't work. And oh man, it's front on and top, but it's true. The more and more you raise your vibration, your energy, your vibration, that electronic orb that goes through your body, the magnetic field of Earth, us, everything, the more you turn it on, you're going to wig out everything. You're going to flicker lights. You're going to burst bulbs. And it's scary, but then you learn to control it because you can control it. You can ease it down. When it starts happening, center yourself. You got to bring it back and bring it in your heart. Your heart showing it to, you're just so bright. The universe can't handle it right now, or what's energy that's coming out cannot handle it. That's why it shuts it down. And that's the big thing with electricity too. It's goes both ways. It's good and it's bad. It's positive and negative. It wouldn't be electricity without positive, negative. And the second it happens, the second you see it, you notice it, and it keeps continuing, and it starts to irk you, because it irks the crap out of me every time I'm trying to get focused. I'm trying to get in this meditated state. I'm trying to go up to the astral planes. And then the music, the sound goes off. Wi-Fi got no connection. Something turns on that's never turned on before, by itself. And microwaves beeping. It's like, are you kidding me? Just step back, relax, breathe. Take back the center. Just like, hey, let me bring my power back a little bit and just call it back. But it happens all the time. I love it. Just like if you put your finger to like a little microphone and you just get that little buzzing sound when you did it, kids. Oh, that's your electricity field. That's your song. You just got to turn it on. Let people hear it.
What about you, Pippa?
Well, this is interesting. As a few things are coming to my mind as everyone's speaking. Is this on? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
A few things. Well, one is a random story. I'll just tell it quickly. When I was a kid, I stuck a fork in the power socket. I knew that you weren't supposed to. The whole reason I did it was because you're not supposed to. I was really. Well, you know what? It's interesting because I can still feel it now. That like. And I wonder if somehow I wanted that in my field, that kind of like electric, charge. I must have somehow, because I can still feel it right now. So that electricity doesn't break, flicker. I don't have any of this, but what I have is crockery, glasses, pots and pans. I cannot go near them. Everything clatters and makes a sound when I come near it. If I go in the kitchen and I move, I go in the kitchen, I've got to move a plate from there to there without making a sound, so I don't bother everyone. Every time, clatter, bang, wallop, crash. I cannot stop this. I cannot interact with kitchen stuff without making enormous noises. And I think it might be to do with kind of like energy movements. Like I'm compelled to move energy with these noises in some way, or there's something metaphysical going on that I haven't quite figured out. Anyway, 2 random stories. That's my input.
Maybe you were a chef in the past life.
I don't want to do it now. I don't want to cook now. Maybe it's just my way to get kicked out of the kitchen. I don't know.
So that means you got plastic Tupperware, plastic to it.
Don't go kitchen.
How about you, Chris? Have you experienced this anomaly where you get upset, you get emotional, whatever, or just being around electronics, they have issues?
Yeah, actually, just last week, I'm in my kitchen and one of the lights, it pops. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of weird. Must be a coincidence. I unscrew it and the whole base of it was an LED light. The whole base is cracked. I'm like, that's interesting. And then I'm at my office and I'm in the bathroom in my office and boom, I hear like another pop. And I thought it was just the light that blew out, but the ballast actually blew out. So yeah, I'm getting those type of situations too. Not only that, but within my body. So sometimes, usually in the very early morning hours, if I wake up early and I'm in that hypnagogic state, like between being awake and sleeping, I start to get surges of electricity through my body. And I mostly feel it in my crown. Okay. And it's like, zzz, zzz, zzz. I'm like, okay. I'm always tuning in that it's something positive. Like something's being upgraded.
Right.
But so I think a lot of other people are going to start to experience those things.
I can tell you, I'm going to add 2 things to this conversation myself. I can tell you there's a group of people that I talk to every night in an online chat room. And this is something that we have definitely logged and we are very well aware is a thing. A lot of times we'll get into political discussions back there. And, of course, we get very uppity, get very strong about our opinions sometimes politically. And there's times we'll be just talking and getting into it, and all of a sudden everything will freeze up. Or it'll freeze up on their side, and they'll come back, hey, you need to calm down. And that's happened quite a bit. Like, that's actually a running joke between us. That's a normal thing. And do you guys know about the second Pauli exclusion principle? So the Pauli exclusion principle, if I'm not mistaken, says two things cannot be in the same place at the same time, cannot occupy the same physical space. The other one says Pauli cannot be in the same room as working equipment at the same time. That was actually a known thing. He was well known for things not working when he was around. So I thought that was pretty funny too. So that said, ladies and gentlemen, I have one more question, and it's just going to be a yes or no if you've noticed something. Another thing a friend of mine has noticed is things will appear in the timeline as, say, a single individual tree, for instance. This one very special breed, we've only got one of them. They've never been seen before. We've got it right here. In about 2 or 3 weeks, it's, oh, yeah, there's been a whole field of them for a couple years over here. They're protected. And then a couple weeks later, oh, yeah, they've been around since like the 1800s. You didn't know? Have you noticed this, that a Mandela effect will appear and then move backwards through time? Yes or no?
Yes.
Bill?
I haven't noticed that one.
All right, that's an honest answer.
I got to say yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
You've noticed that, Pippa?
Yes, absolutely, yes.
And Chris?
I'm not quite sure what you mean. Like a Mandela effect moves backwards.
So, for instance, on open tables, we'll have like a mandanimal. There's only one of them in the whole world. It's kept in this reserve over here, and we just found it. It's the only one ever existed. And then a couple weeks later, or a month later, we're doing a show.
So,
oh, yeah, there's been a whole group of them forever.
I vote for yes for that.
Yeah. I was about to say, I know you and I have seen that for a fact. But if there's any more questions, ladies and gentlemen, going once, going... Producer Heather has a question.
Yeah, good idea. It's a good idea.
She said, stay away from her tech table, folks. I'm glad we had that conversation. So all of the people that are upset, please stay away from that side of the room.
You sure the cameras are on? No, just making sure.
I've recorded whole shows without a microphone on. Ladies and gentlemen, your first day panel for International Mandela Effect Conference 2024. Liz Larson, Bill McKenna, Lee Allen Bogas, Pippa Ona, and Christopher Onetra. Thank you, folks. Thank you, guys.